Hello, everybody, and welcome to this first in a series of what I'm calling the Tapestry series. And you can see a description about that that I posted through Facebook, and I'm offering this just as a free tool for those who maybe have a little bit of understanding about their astrological chart, but also those who are just curious for deeper meaning and inspiration in their life about how to use the natural energies that you built into your astrological chart at the very moment of your birth. And so for this, you are going to need your specific astro chart. And so down below in the YouTube description, I've given steps on how you can create a chart for free through astro.com. This is actually how I do all of my astrology. At some point, maybe I'll get an astrological software, but honestly, this works for me, and it will give you this picture that we're going to look at. And I will say, for the Tapestry series, it is important to have your actual time of birth, because that is what creates what's known as the houses. And here I've got my astro chart pulled up that we're going to be referencing. And the houses are these pieces of pie here. You see numbers around the middle. That's the houses in astrology. So even if you have never delved into this, if you have your birth date, the city and state where you were born and country, and the exact birth time, then you can follow along on this by creating your own chart. And I'm going to give some helpful tips along the way as to what to look at, and we're just going to take them one at a time, one a week. And I'll probably do these on Saturdays to post onto YouTube over the next 6 weeks. So the overview about the Tapestry series briefly here is that I just had this knowing come up in me as I've been doing astrological readings for people, that the astro chart and the energies in it can be seen like a tapestry. And with that, there are very specific threads that are used to create this whole very unique picture of who you are. And your astro chart is very much like your cellular structure, your DNA structure, and even more tangibly for us, our fingerprint. It's very unique, the combinations, and that's the power of astrology, is when we look at the combinations of energies. And I'm starting to go more in that direction for my astro readings for people, is looking at this idea of threads, okay? And I want you to see them as vibrant and strong and so supportive of you as you create that tapestry, that big picture that you came to bring forward in this life, okay? So the first thread involves houses 1 and 7, okay? So here we're looking at my chart. We're looking at this piece of pie here, and this across the way. This is the beauty of the Tapestry series, is looking at how we spread this thread out. And that thread has to do with defining your strength. For each of the 6 threads, we will be focusing on what I would call, you could call it a tool, or you could call it a virtue. I'll let you speak to or think of what word works for you. I'm just referring to it as a thread at this point, because I don't want to put words into your chart that are not true for you. But the feeling of houses 1 and 7 is about building up where you find strength, where you look to build your strength too. Okay, so, and this is an important one because this house and this house across the way, they straddle, you see, this bold line here. And in astrology, this is the horizon line that connects your ascendant to your descendant. And without getting into, I'm trying to make this series not too complicated. but essentially that bold line that goes across the horizon is what I know to be your soul line, what you came in here to experience. And not only what you came to experience, but how can you experience it? That's where I see the ascendant and descendant playing together. So this strength thread is what straddles that line. That's why it is, there are two threads that are ultra important. These serve as anchors for you in your tapestry. So with your strength, house 1, which we see right here in my chart, this is naturally ruled by the element of fire and the sign of Aries. And I will say here too, as I'm beginning to talk about this, Aries, Mars, fire, all of these are related to that first house. And if you don't know about those aspects, I've included some links down in the YouTube description, and I'll put this in every thread video so that you could just do a little bright, light touch on this. You don't have to go deep into what Aries means or Mars means. I just want you to get the feel of, like, essentially, we're talking leadership here. We're talking power. We're talking go power, forward movement. That is all related to the first house. So for you specifically, this is the house that fuels your inner vitality. It's what gets you going in the morning. It's what fuels you up internally, because that's what everything, that we're going to be looking at here. There's a component of the thread that is internally driven, and then across the way is how the external world mirrors and helps to refine that particular element, which we're talking about strength here. So this is about your inner strength, your inner sense of vitality, and really shows us how you bring yourself to this world, okay? So when you're looking at this, what you want to be looking at with your chart, once you get it out of astro.com, I want you to take a look at this. Bold line here defines the sign for you that rules your first house. So you want to look to what's here, okay? And the link I'm going to give you shows, these are called glyphs. It will show you what those mean and what sign they're related to. That shows you what rules for you individually, your inner sense of vitality, the way that you naturally find your sense of inner strength, okay? And also, each sign is connected to one of the 4 elements of earth, air, water, and fire. And so that information too will be in one of the links that I send to you. It actually might even be in the link about the signs, so that you just get a little information. You don't have to go deep here. I'm just asking you to lightly touch on it and say, okay, for me, I'm just telling you this as an example here. This is Libra. So the way that I find my inner sense of strength is Libra is about balance. It is about seeking harmony, and particularly in relationships. That is how I find great strength, is when I am in this mode of seeking that harmony. Because remember, the first house is about doing. It's about forward momentum. These are words I want you to think about as you look at your sign for your first house. What is it that you are driven to do to build your sense of strength? And for me, when I focus on driving harmony within my relationships, and that isn't always easy for us, but when I focus on that, I build my sense of inner vitality, and it's what gets me up in the morning. This comes out in my workspace. This comes out in my home. This comes out in other important relationships for me. It's in all settings of your life that the first house does affect. It's how, again, this is your inner vitality, your inner sense of strength, and how you're led naturally through your astro chart to be able, like, what is the indication of where you should be exerting effort. So it gives you some clues, like some breadcrumbs to actually, that it's okay that I kind of tend to focus on relationships, let's say in my work, my corporate work that I do, and I certainly do it in my business. That's the foundation of my business. But for instance, in a corporate setting, you can question yourself about, why am I so concerned about relationships and like building relationships when I should be focused on the work and achieving and getting it done and all of those. But getting it done, that's the key phrase I want you to think about for your first house. Getting it done for me is building relationships, Libra. And that's why I feel a greater sense of strength and vitality within myself when I allow myself to amplify those aspects of my work in the corporate setting. Do you see where I'm getting? So I'm giving you some framework to work with. This is where is your go power that's going to give you a deeper sense of inner strength. And vitality, like feeling, and by that I mean it makes you feel alive. And this is the energy that exudes. It's so important, the first house. It exudes out into the world if you are embracing this rising sign. That's your rising sign. When people talk about the ascendant or the rising sign, this is the one. So you want to look at that sign. You want to look at the element. Libra is in the element of air. So that means like mentality, my communication ability. It's a good thing that I'm a professional communicator, not only for my business, but in my corporate work, in communications and marketing. I am embracing that piece of my pie, and it gets me up every morning. It gets me going. And so air is about this sense of seeking harmony and balance. I'm putting together Libra and air. Seeking harmony and balance, particularly in relationships, when it comes to, and doing that through communication and how I choose to perceive and listen, and it's that whole cognitive function. That's what air is. So it just gives you some clues. This is why I love astrology so much. The other piece you're going to want to look at is, are there any planets in that piece of pie? And so there's another link down in the YouTube. That's why we're taking this one thread at a time. It's more than enough to just look at one per week, and maybe you want to stretch it out further. Go for it, whatever matters to you. But that's another link that you can look at what these, again, these are glyphs of each of there's 10 planets in all. Plus there's Chiron and the North Node. So we'll be looking at the 10 planets, and I can give other links for Chiron and the North Node so you can understand those a bit better. But you put placements of planets in particular. Those are like tools in the tool belt. This entire thing is like a huge tool belt. So I have Jupiter here, the cup that runneth over. And so you put planets in the houses where you really wanted to bring some focus to that area, okay? And so I've got Jupiter retrograde here. So if it were you and you have one of these glyphs sitting in that piece of pie for the first house, just go to that link and see what that means. See what that means. What is that planet saying? And how does that relate to what you've learned looking at only your sign and your element for your first house? This is a piece of the first thread, your inner strength, your inner vitality. And With this, some of them will have a little R next to them. You see this here? It's a little R that's next to the planet. That means it was in retrograde at the time that I was born. So this is an inner wisdom. This is an inner superpower when you have retrograde planets. And almost everybody that I have done charts for has at least one retrograde planet, because some of these are in retrograde motion for a long time. And I don't want to get into the specifics around retrograde. That's a whole other series that I could do. What I just want to tell you is that this is an inner knowing and a mastery that only you are going to have to come to over a lifetime. And usually by the time of midlife and beyond is when you really start to embrace your retrogrades. Because you have, for me, I'm giving you an example. Jupiter is about expansion. It's about, I need more. It's about, big developments in life and just looking to soak up more of life. Think about the words more and expansion. It's for me, that glyph looks like a cup, and the cup is running over. That's why one of the lines goes like this: my cup runneth over. I can't get enough. That's what Jupiter means. But I have a very unique way of looking at that I have come to over time. And for me, that this falls, you see where the line connects into the outer ring, the tool belt, is in the sign of Scorpio. So this is another level of information that you can get about how that Jupiter shows up. It shows up, and I need to use this to my advantage as part of my strength thread. When I embrace my own sense of greater expansion through going deep with people. Because again, you're layering on here. You have the meaning that we got out of the sign that rules the house, and then the planet adds to that energy. The planet helps you in meeting the goal of that first house, which we define through the sign and the element. Okay? I'm hoping I'm not making this too complicated. I really want you to keep light about this. But for me, the way that I would layer this up, okay? I'm seeking balance and harmony within relationships to build my own sense of inner strength and vitality. That makes me feel alive when I do that. In all settings of my life, first house relates to everything. It's how you bring yourself to the world. And Jupiter helps me out in making that dream come true, in finding that inner vitality, by me following my own guidelines as to deeper expansion, deep, that's Scorpio, deep and intense expansion in studying relationships. I love looking at what makes people unique. Nothing lights me up like that. So that's a very unique, that's the retrograde part of it. Unique expansion opportunity, and I'm always wanting more. That's why my business changes so much. That's why I change in my corporate setting. That's why I have different interests with my family, and I have a lot of change that comes up in my life. That's what Jupiter calls me to do. But it's to move these deeper inner knowings that come up. That's Scorpio. That is as deep as it comes. Okay, so the planets help you. So this is just one part of the thread. Remember, we have two ends of the thread. The other piece is you would go through the same exercise that I've just done for the first house in the seventh. So now you're looking at, okay, where does this line come across and what sign is it in? For me, it's in the sign of Aries. So this is my leadership potential. This is my go power. This is where I have the most energy to bring to this world, because Aries is incredibly driven. It's the beginning of the zodiac, so it's like the cannonball coming out of the cannon. It's rocket fuel. It launches the whole zodiac, so it is your leadership potential. And this is your descendant point in the chart. So this 7th house, you're going to do the same thing you did for the first house, which is to look at the sign and the element. So the sign, 7th house this is of relationships. So this is your inner strength. And how do you build your outer strength? Through relationships. There's an inner process and the outer process. And that's essentially what the thread is about, the two ends of the thread. And when you are working at your highest ability as a human being, you are pulling on both ends of those threads as much as you can at the same time. Okay? So this outer sense of strength and vitality comes through on purpose. Our interaction with other people. That's what the 7th house is about. These are the people that are closest to you, your love partner, very close friends, and I put family in this category too. This is by design, the rub that we have against other people in our beliefs and our thoughts and our interactions. But can't you see over time, that is how you build a deeper sense, in a way, of your strength and vitality, which is what this thread is about. You do that through your interactions with other people. So how best do you do that? That's what the chart tells you. So looking at the sign and the element. So for me, this is when I take a leadership role in other relationships. It's why it works really well in my relationship with my husband that I am the natural leader in our marriage. I sort of set the plan and get us to go do certain things or get us to focus on certain goals. That is using my energy to its best, to its fine tuning. That's how I designed it to be. So in this way, you give yourself kind of a permission note, if you will, that it's okay. It's okay for me to be a leader in that respect. It doesn't mean that I don't listen to him. It means that we are a partnership, but there tends to be a leader in a partnership, one who has the vision and the drive to get things done and to move things forward. And everything that I bring to the world internally is what then gets reflected out here. And I get to fine tune it in the 7th house because I create my own inner strength and then I try out those concepts over here. Okay, and they don't always work. That's the beauty of the rub. We don't get along with people 24/7 for our entire lives. It wasn't built that way on purpose because of this very thread, because it builds your vitality and your strength. You think you know what that is internally when you look at all this first house stuff. And then the beauty, the fine-tuning, the quest towards mastery when it comes to your strength is when you try it out with other people. Or you see other people trying it out and you have a reaction. You learn both ways. You fine-tune. I like that better than learn. You fine-tune your own ways based on those interactions. So take a look at, this is a little study series, okay? What is your sign? What is your element? Aries for me is fire. This is about get up and go time when it comes to making relationships with other people, to bringing relationships to a new level. Again, it's always, you have to use in combination. I'm bringing all this harmony, energy, and wanting deep connection. That's what makes me feel alive. I'm not a person that likes small talk. If you've ever met me, I'm not like that. So that's how that translates. And then I bring that out into the world in a kind of a leadership quality way in my relationships. And then take a look at what planets do you have in that piece of pie, and go to that link I sent. If you don't automatically know the planets, go to that link that I sent, and you're going to look at the planet meaning, and then where you see these little blue lines indicate what sign that is in. This is still in the 7th house, this piece of pie. I have Saturn and Mars literally sitting on top of each other. This is perhaps the most interesting, one of the most interesting parts of my personal chart. And this is the taskmaster, the principal in the high school, that's Saturn. I'm giving it to you easy here. The principal in the high school, that's Saturn, with the warrior, which is Mars. Mars is about war and driving momentum and just a huge sense of drive. And those two are holding hands. You can feel how they're kind of opposed to each other. So it's kind of being a good doobie and doing what you got to do, and then driving need for moving ahead, sometimes too quickly. So those create their own rub for me. And they're in the sign of Taurus, which is a very grounded sign, and it's about safety. Finding safety and stability in my relationships is important to me. Okay? So you just have to put these pieces together. And then the last piece I want to talk about when it comes to the threads is you need to see if the planets, if they have a red line between them. And this is why this is so important to me, because you see that I have multiple ones of these. They are stretched right across my birth chart. And these are so important to me in astrology. Astrologers typically call them oppositions. I don't do that because the meaning behind that tends to be that this is a real problematic area in your life. I view this differently based on what's come up from within me as I look at people's charts. This is more about at the time of your birth. This is you in the middle. You've just come out of your mom. You're on the hospital table or at home, wherever you were born. This is you. Boom, the start of, Kathleen Barton's life on March 16th of 1970 at 7:28 p.m. in Claremont, New Hampshire. Boom, here she is. Here's what the sky looks like above. Here's what the sky looks like below. And I chose all of that. So guess what? I'm really interested in what crosses me at the time of my birth. I am the magnet at the middle. And that's why oppositions are so important. They literally stretch across your sky, and you are the magnet in the middle. You are what can bring forward the very best of what those planets have to offer. And that's why the thread series, this tapestry series, is so important to me. Because I have a direct relationship between my Jupiter and not only Saturn, but also Mars, working together through me for something that this world is ready for, that I can uniquely bring, that brings the power of those planets together through me, through my actions, through how I am in this world, through, when we're looking at this thread, through my inner sense of strength and my outer sense of strength. Strength is one of my superpowers. There's very few things, if any, that I'm afraid of, because I have a tremendous amount of strength within me that I'm coming to know more and more as I get older, mostly because of this very unique Jupiter retrograde that I have, a retrograde being very unique level of mastery. And you've all, like most charts, have retrograde. So if you have a red line that connects planets in houses 1 and 7, this is a real area of focus for you in your life, because you are the powerful magnet that draws them together in the middle. And so just think about that, and think about how they relate when you go into your chart and you look at these layers of information. Again, this is more building to those rich and royal hues of tapestry. This is what adds dimensionality, is through looking at the layers of the meaning of the sign, the meaning of the element, the meaning of the planet and the sign and element that that planet is in. And then this extra layer of, wow, is there actually a connection between these two parts of you? That points to, that is an area of incredible mastery and a gift to this world if you embody the two ends of that thread. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to say about the threads is that we're not meant to be in balance 24/7. Just like I said, we don't get along with people 24/7 in our lives. So sometimes you'll find yourself, want you to think about this, okay? We've got a thread that is stretched between these two houses, 1 and 7, that has to do with your strength. There's inner strength, the first house, and there's outer strength that is built. The way I want to say this is, there's your inner sense of strength, what you really know to be your strength and vitality. And then the way that you hone that further is through your relationships with other people. That's the outer piece. And so I want you to think about a time, and I'll give this as an example for myself. So harmony in relationships is incredibly important to my sense of strength. So when I have upset going on in harmony with other people, this is seventh house is about, we're fine-tuning through other people, your sense of strength. When I have upset going on over here, you automatically go to the other end of the thread to find balance, because you're so focused over here in your human being with your energy, you're trying everything you can, that you automatically, and it serves you. What I call this just happened to me recently, I call it turn turtle. That's what I do. I go to find, okay, but what is my source of truth on this? There's all this upset going on with people that I care about in my work setting. So how do I find balance? This is the power of the thread. You go to the other side. You tug on that end of the thread, because that is what is going to clean up some of this. We always need that sense of inner compass, inner strength. And what's going on over here with this upset, this is, okay, we're following the rules. No way in hell are we following the rules. This is specific to me. And this helps me to get, okay, something's queuing here. I need greater expansion on this. That's Jupiter. So I'm bringing it down to this next level of the tapestry. The depth of the tapestry is, you need to send yourself to look within, because you're not helping the chaos over here. If this feels too chaotic and stuff is not coming together, no matter what you try, it's time to turn turtle, and you got to go within to find, okay, that's not working. I need to fine tune over here in my own inner strength, okay? It's using that as a partnership, these two ends of the thread. And if you feel like you're so strong within yourself, almost to the point that it's like you're living in your own world, and maybe you're, barking stuff out there because you feel so alive and you're just on fire. And this I would equate to when I'm here in my office, in my business, and I'm finding so much connection and relationship and yumminess with my higher self energy, with the energy that I use to do my intuitive business. That can be overdone too, when you're totally pulling on that string, but you're not offering anything out with other people. This would be a direct example of me launching my business for tremendous inner expansion. But, within 9 months, I was ready to go back to the corporate setting because this was missing. Other people, live in person, other people, relationships, building relationships with other people was so important to me. And so I had to tug on that other end to get this one up out of the dregs and into a place where it's more productive then. So I feel like I'm doing pretty well on 1 and 7 because literally within my work, I'm able to build my inner strength through my business. And then in my corporate work, I'm over here and fine-tuning some of the things that I learned through my business. I employ them over here to try out. And this over here in the corporate setting gives me information that then I feed back to the first house to find that inner truth. I employ my Jupiter that way. Like, okay, this is kind of what's happening out when I reflect that out in the world. So I think I need to fine tune on that a little bit more. The two work in tandem. So you're not meant to be fully in both at the same time. That is very rare. You're kind of oscillating between the two sides of the thread. But I'm telling you all this because I want to bring your awareness to it, okay? I want you to give yourself a permission note to turn turtle when you need to, and then to go out in the world when you need to exert yourself when you need to, okay? So the other piece that I will put down, because I know this is already quite a long video, is kind of a cheat sheet, if you will. I will put that information also in the YouTube description about the combinations. There are 6 combinations. I happen to have Libra and Aries. And so really what that means in terms of this example as I'm explaining it is for my strength, my sense of inner vitality. That's the word I want. Vitality and strength. This is about the balance between searching for harmony, particularly in relationship, because Libra is always connected to that, with exerting my leadership in that same area with other people, because the 7th house always has to do with other people, and particularly those closest to us. So it is using that sense of harmony with leadership. I want to make this as simple as I can here. Harmony, leadership. Can you feel the rub in those two? That's on purpose. Welcome to astrology and the power of it. It is harmony, air, how we look at things, how we process things, as we find harmony, whether it's within ourselves or with other people. It's about you and another, and that can be higher self too, with that power to be able to drive forward and have a voice, to be a leader. Fire. It is passion and it is drive. That's Aries for sure. So this is built-in rub, and this is also those two ends. They're two parts of the thread. And if you can employ that fire and air together, then, oh boy. And that's going to be specific to you. Those houses are naturally ruled by, usually first house is fire and 7th house is air, because the first house is ruled by Aries and fire, and the 7th house is ruled by Libra and air. And in my chart, I've got all of those reversed, so that has meaning too. But that's reference that sort of language that I include in the YouTube description to find out just the basics of what is your strength thread about for you. Okay. I think that that's everything. Of course, with these readings, we can go deeper for you. I'm offering these readings through my website, callofthewild.energytherapy.com. I'll include that link down in the YouTube as well, because we can get even more granular, because there is a Sabian symbol connected to this point here, to the planetary points. All of that brings another level of depth. This is why astrology is so amazing. We can go that deep, and those Sabian symbols have very specific meaning in combination with everything else we've talked about. So it's this weaving story. That's why I call this the Tapestry series. So if that's of interest, you can look at that on my website. And you can choose even to just look at one thread that really matters to you. If you've got a red line, like I've talked about, this right here, that's important for you. That's important to understand. Okay, and I'm a lover of that, and you can see why, because I have multiple threads here that I really am here to master and to bring forward. And some of you out there have those as well. So that is it for now, and next week we will move on to the second thread, which is about your love. Okay? Thanks for tuning in, and I hope this was helpful to you.